And it's an interesting thing, and I often reflect on this with my kids, not kids, they're teenagers now. But I talk a lot to them about commitment and the importance of being fully committed to something, like fully committed to a career, fully committed to a hobby, fully committed in a relationship, and or fully committed to studying if that's what you're doing. And there's a huge difference after you're fully committed. It's not marginal, it's major. Like if you're fully committed to learning something and you'll leave no stone unturned, but you want to be the best in the world at understanding this, and you're fully committed, your life will dramatically change.
Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. Be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified when the next video comes out. It only takes 2 seconds to make 2 clicks. So let's do it. Let's get back to the video. Hello, Fearless Freedom Tribe. This is Dr. G, and we are back for another exciting episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. And I'm always excited when there is someone on the show who is from this side of the world, because, you know, I have a special affinity for this side of the world. And so today we have Peter Anthony, and he is hailing from Aussie land. So tell us about yourself, Peter, and what you were up to.
Good morning, Charmaine. Good morning, listeners. Well, good morning for us, at least anyway. I'm up to talking to people about overcoming the fear of having the conversations they're not having. And those conversations could be the ones that make the biggest difference in their lives. So that's what I'm up to.
Awesome. So now we love to get the backstory. We love to get to why is it you're even focused on this? How did you get there? All that good stuff. So we want you to spill all the tea, Peter. We want to know all about that.
Okay. Well, it's really, as most things are, it's all my mum's fault, because when I was very young, I would have been about 5 or 6 years old. My mother came from a huge family, and every Sunday she'd invite her brothers, my uncles over, and their children. The house would be full of people. And I was pretty antisocial, and I just wanted to stay in my room and read my books and not talk to people. And my mum was always encouraging me to come out and, talk to your relatives. They're your uncles, they're your cousins, come and talk to them. And I was really reluctant. I wasn't nasty. I didn't dislike people. I was just really shy, a really shy little kid. And she said, come out and talk to them. And I eventually did come out, and I got to know my Uncle Harry, who I loved. And what I found was that if I just asked Harry a question, he would start telling me great stories, which I really enjoyed. They were funny, they were entertaining, they always had a message. And I thought, well, this is really interesting. Like, I was really literally afraid. I was scared of being around people, of talking to people. But I found if I did start connecting, when I was young, it was just about asking questions. I found that I got a lot of enjoyment out of it, and they got enjoyment out of having me as their company. So it really went back to her. That was how it all started.
Nice.
I then obviously I got older. I did a marketing and communications degree. Spent a lot of time making television commercials back in the day when we had real television commercials. Then I started consulting and coaching people in influencing and selling. And I found that a lot of this traditional selling didn't work either, because when customers felt like they were being sold to, they got afraid. And if people were in sales roles, they didn't like it either. So I was struggling to find a way to get around that issue. And after running workshops for 20 years in 12 different countries, I developed a way of doing this. I developed a way of helping people understand how to have those conversations. So that's where I am now, if you like.
Oh, that's awesome. And so did you go back and tell your Uncle Harry that he was your inspiration?
I did. I told him it was, he still cracks me up here. I said to him, I told him what I was doing. And he said, so what do you do for a living again, Peter? I said, I teach people to talk to each other. And he said, and they pay you for that? And I said, yeah, they pay me. And he was like, he laughs and laughs. He thinks it's so funny because he thinks talking is such a natural thing because he's what we call a bushie. He's from country New South Wales. He was a lumberjack through most of his life, as all his family, all my mother's family, all the men spent their time cutting trees down. So he would go to the forest to chop down trees, talk to all his mates, and he thought talking was a really natural thing. He didn't realize that some people have a real struggle with it, particularly with a difficult issue or a challenging issue or a challenging person. That didn't enter his mind that was an issue. But he's still alive and kicking. He still tells great stories. Still the same stories, unfortunately.
Oh, is it really? So now you can actually like finish the sentences.
I can almost finish the sentences, but the bizarre thing, I don't know whether you know people like this, some people can tell you the same story and it's still funny even though you've heard it 100 times. It's like a great joke or listening to a great song. You can hear it and you think, yeah, I still really love that. And he's the sort of person whose laughter is infectious.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
When he starts laughing, because he tells the funny stories and he starts laughing and you start laughing and then it's a great time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Genuinely a great time it's very cool. Very cool.
Sounds like Uncle Harry is quite the character.
He is. And he and my mum are really close and I love my mum dearly. And I really treasure that relationship that they have. I think what a cool relationship, a brother and sister that have been like best friends their entire lives and they really love each other and care about each other and help each other. I think that's really cool. That's a lovely relationship to have.
Absolutely. Wow. And so, let's talk a little bit about how did you transition from doing commercials and things like that and the advertising situation. So you obviously went ahead and got some advanced training in that because it sounds like you did a marketing degree, you said, right? And then right. From there, springboarding into actually, practicing what you learned. But then how did you make the transition then to applying the skills that Uncle Harry, kindled within you to that craft? Like, how did you to get to the point where you're coaching people? Like, how did that happen?
Well, it wasn't by design. It was almost by accident. I mean, I'd worked in advertising for many years. This is back in the days when advertising agencies were very wealthy and had huge multinational clients. And there was a rule in advertising then that you had, for each person you employed, you needed $1 million worth of advertising billings. So if you wanted 20 people, there's $20 million, 100 people, $100 million, and so forth. And one of the biggest clients that I was running at that stage of my career, they internationally realigned with a different advertising agency group. So myself and 20 of my colleagues were all fired.
Oh my gosh.
All of us, right? We're all just told, look, the client has realigned internationally, so you've no longer got a job. So
oh my.
I thought, okay, this is interesting. I was devastated because I love what I did. I love the work. I love making ads. I love that whole influencing piece you have in consumer behavior. And they gave us what they call an outplacement consultant, like someone that helps you find another job.
Okay.
So I went to this outplacement consultant, and the first thing she said was, look, Peter, you've got to write down the names of 100 people that you know, and you've got to ring each of these 100 people, and you've got to tell them what's happened and ask for their advice. And I thought, gee, I feel really ashamed. I don't really feel like telling 100 people I've just been fired. It's like the sort of thing I don't really want to broadcast.
Right.
That wasn't really my fault. It happened It happened to me, not because of me. Anyway, so I made my list out. I was catching up for coffee with all these people. I was feeling really sick because I was spending most of the day catching up and having coffee with these people. And then I came across a person, 14 or 15 on the list, a good friend of mine called Tracy. I sat down with Tracy, had a coffee. I said, Trace, what's happened? I've been fired. My consultants told me I've got to call 100 people. I'm sorry, you're 14 on the list. He said, why wasn't I earlier on the list? I said, oh, look, I'm sorry. You were just 14 randomly on the list. She was really annoyed at me that she wasn't earlier. Anyway, so I said, what do you think I should do? And she said, Peter, you're a natural communicator. You really love talking to people. You're really good with people. You should get in the communication business. And she said, just by chance, I know someone that runs one of the biggest communication consultancies. I'll ask him to catch up with you. I said, oh, would you? She said, yeah. So cool. So I told my outplacement consultant, he's, oh, that's really good. That's how it's supposed to work. Like you're just, 3 degrees of separation away from the people that you need to talk to. And he was really excited. I thought that's really good. That's really good.
Wow.
So I went and met the guy that ran the big consultancy here. It turns out an old school buddy of mine was there too. So I joined this company, and I learned how to coach and run workshops in influencing. At the same time, I did a master's in communication to get the academic part right, and then I started running workshops. I worked for them for 7 years.
Okay.
And they sent me to America, of all places, the US, right?
I know, right?
And they said, look, we want you to go to Chicago and open an office in Chicago. And we had a couple of big clients, SC Johnson and Wrigley were both in Chicago.
Okay.
So I flew to Chicago. I was going to start the office there. I met with SC Johnson. I met with Wrigley. They said, great, you guys can start working here. We'll be your foundation clients. I thought, oh, that's great. It was freezing cold. It was winter.
It is really cold. I was like, wow, of all places, Chicago.
I hadn't experienced cold like that. Like it was just like, I got back on the plane to come back to Manly where I live, which is warm and sunny, and cold is like 16 degrees Celsius. Right. And I thought, why would I go all the way to Chicago to start an office business for these people and make like 5% of what I'm generating for them? Why wouldn't I do it for myself? Why wouldn't I do it for me? If I've got all this, if it's me that's doing it and starting this business in Chicago, look, not against anyone from Chicago.
Right. Never that. But the weather is chilling.
It is cold, and it's a long way from home for me. Yes. Right? A long way. So I came back. I thought in that plane trip, I just decided I was going to do it for myself. I thought, look, I know the business, know how to do this. Been doing it now for 7 years. I understand how to run workshops and do that. Right? And so I resigned, and they said, look, you can't approach any of your clients. I said, okay, I'll start my business. So I just called my clients. I said, I can't approach you.
Oh, nice.
But if I'm not approaching you, but if you want to approach me, here's my phone number. You're free to call me. Fortunately, and this was in 1998, this happened, a long time ago. Unfortunately, 3 of them called me back and wanted me to work with them, which is very cool. And 2 of them are still clients now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
After all those years. Yeah, because I take those relationships extremely seriously.
Yeah.
So I believe those commercial relationships are incredibly important. So that's a long story. That's how.
That's fantastic.
It wasn't like a lot of these motivational speakers say, just set the intention and then it doesn't unfold like that. It unfolds in the right way, but not usually the way you think it's going to unfold, because there's something else going on, I think.
Yeah.
That makes the dominoes fall the way they should fall for you. And that's, my dominoes weren't in Chicago. My dominoes were local. Although funnily enough, I ended up going back to Chicago and doing some work there for myself.
On your own though, or for your own company?
On my own, yeah. On my own.
See, there's a difference there, And then so that's oh yeah, big time. So it's interesting. I love that you said this, like you were like, wait a minute, I'm going here. You guys have enough confidence in me that I'm going to go here and establish a new branch of your company. Why wouldn't I do that for myself? I think that's fantastic.
Why would I do it for me?
Yeah.
It took me the whole It took me the whole plane trip to have that conversation with myself. Yeah, and I eventually, yeah, I'll back myself. I'll do this. And sometimes I think you get that feeling as sort of an inner sense. I think there's. I remember reading a quote from Carl Jung many years ago, the very famous, like the founder of modern psychology, and he said, "There's an inner self that beckons you on a call to adventure." There's an inner part of you, like there's a part of you that is calling you not on any adventure, but on your adventure. And each of us have got like a unique adventure to live. And when you connect with that inner self, when you sort of connect with her or connect with him, you know what the right path is. Like you know the right relationship or the wrong relationship, you know, the right friends, the right job, the right people. You meet them and you feel it. It's almost instant. You get a sense that, yeah, I like this person. I like this business. I like this job. I like this role. And only you know that. No one else can tell you. It's really interesting. I was doing some work at a I won't say where, at a big university in Asia, and a lot of the kids there, and by kids I mean like 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they've got big issues because they are there because their parents want them there.
Oh,
They're living out their parents' dream, and a lot of them are very unhappy in what they're doing, and they try to change track because they're not listening to that inner voice or that inner hero. And that's your adventure. I think that's one way of, if I think about overcoming fear, I don't think you ever completely overcome it. I think it's always you get a sense of it. But if you can reframe it and say, hey, this is the fear or the feeling I get when I'm embarking on something new, and this is the next leg of my adventure. I feel that in my bones, and then you can go forward. That's my experience of it. It never actually goes away.
No, doesn't.
No, I don't like these motivational speak. Oh yeah, you can overcome it, and you can walk on fire, and you can do all these things, and it goes away. No, it doesn't go away. And in fact, if you believe it goes away and it doesn't, you feel worse.
Yeah.
When you feel it again, but it's definitely still there. It just changes, and it's a different sort of message you're getting. They're my thoughts anyway. Not that I'm an expert in this. I'm just one guy that's lived a life so far.
So I know that, I mean, at least from what you're saying, it sounds like on that plane ride, you did have some fear though, because you probably were like, wait, okay, you came to the realization that you could do this for yourself versus doing it for others. And then you realize probably that, wait, if I do that, then what am I going to do? What clients am I going to utilize? Like, how will I get this going? Like there had to be like some fear there, right? But it sounds like you took that feeling and you turned it into you choosing your adventure. Like fuel for that.
Yeah. And Charmaine, I think it's really interesting. There's one thing I realized, because I reflected on that trip quite a lot. So it was obviously a big turning point for me. And one of the things I've realized is the answers you give to the what if question are really important. Because as I was flying back, I was thinking, what if the clients say no? Then I'm really snookered, right? But what if they say yes?
Yeah.
Like, what if they say yes? You know, and then it's almost as if there's in your own mind, there's an optimist and a pessimist having a conversation in your own head, in my head, I'm not insane through saying that. And it's often, I think, when you're feeling most fearful, it's often the more pessimistic voice that's telling you you're not big enough, smart enough, strong enough, whatever enough,
right,
to do that next step, and it sort of constrains you.
Yeah,
and I think it's useful to get more in tune with that more optimistic voice. I don't mean my crazy, risky voice.
No, not at all. Totally.
Yeah,
I totally get that. Because I mean, because I don't know about you, but like I grew up with those cartoons with the two characters on the shoulder of each character, little devil and little angel. That's real. That is real, because you have that, as you said, the pessimist and the optimist kind of going at it, and it's kind of like up to us to make sure that the optimist is the one that fuels us versus the other.
Yes. And you've got to give the optimist a chance, because it's like, well, what if the client said no? What if they said yes? Well, give them a chance to say yes. And they can't say yes if you don't ask them for the business. They can't say yes. So that's never going to happen. And fortunately for me, it worked. And I was so grateful for them saying yes that I worked much, much harder for them after that. I was, and it's an interesting thing, and I often reflect on this with my kids, my not kids, they're teenagers now. But I talk a lot to them about commitment and the importance of being fully committed to something, like fully committed to a career, fully committed to a hobby, fully committed in a relationship, and or fully committed to studying if that's what you're doing. And there's a huge difference after you're fully committed. It's not marginal, it's major. Like if you're fully committed to learning something and you'll leave no stone unturned, but you want to be the best in the world at understanding this, and you're fully committed, your life will dramatically change. It's the same as if you're fully committed to a loving relationship and you're both all in. It changes completely. It's a different ballpark. You're in a different planet. Or if you're in a commercial relationship and you're fully committed, and they sense that, they know you're fully committed because you're answering emails at 5 o'clock in the morning. You're there early. You're fully primed. You're fully prepared. They know you're committed. They can feel it. You can't fake commitment. And I love seeing somehow when I'm on TikTok, sometimes I see these bizarre relationship experts that sort of give you tips on how to say a line or do this or what she means. But that's all a big game. And just be all in. And that's one way to I guess deal with the fear. Once you make that decision, that means action.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I think that is yeah, you're right. I mean, that is something that is it can basically, it applies to everything. Everything, your career, your relationships, like you mentioned, your own path. I mean, yeah, being fully committed. I love that.
Yeah. And it's the same. It's in like romantic relationships. It's the same. I mean, if you're, I don't think you should be fully committed to like an abusive or toxic relationship. But if you're with someone that you care about and you feel as if they care about you, what I found, and it took me a while to learn this, by the way, it wasn't just an instant thought. What I found when I was with someone and I made her feel like I was fully committed to her, the whole relationship changes and you open up a whole new world of possibility than if you're sort of on the edge, not sure. Well, if not sure, you can't be not sure indefinitely. You've got to be. That's true. Got to get sure at some stage.
You'll be forced one way or another to make a decision about that.
I know. But it's the same as like a hobby or something you're studying. You're gonna how long is it going to take you to understand that you like this or that this is something you can commit to or not? I mean, you can't live in that no man's land.
Yeah.
You've got to either be one or the other. It's that's my theory, at least, anyway.
Yeah, I think that is globally applicable, to be honest.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Dr. G, and I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for listening to this episode. I'm so honored to have you here with me. Did you know that I can help you to get your own podcast started? With my podcasting launch course for professionals, I walk you through everything you need to know about starting a podcast. I'm with you every step of the way from sign up to launching your show with 5 episodes ready to go. There's a done for you version that's also available if you would just rather just do recordings and leave the behind the scenes work up to us, then that one is definitely for you. But either way, we've got your back here at Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Oh, if you already have a show and you need production services, we have monthly plans available for you. So check out the links in the episode show notes for more information. Let's get back to the show.
And then what I've learned professionally is that because most of what I do is working with business people, helping them talk to each other, and most of the most challenging conversations they have are the ones they don't have. They don't have them because they're scared of having them. They're just so scared that they never have them, and not having them does more damage than having them, or at least attempting to have them. And it's extraordinary how often that's happening. It's extraordinary how often people aren't having the conversations they know they need to have when they need to have them, and the delay by itself causes more problems.
Yeah,
because if you had to have a conversation, say in February, and it's now November, that's another almost entire year you haven't had it, and that's going to make it harder to have when you do have it, because you've delayed it for so long. And when you think about fear, you think, well, the things I delay are the things I'm scared of, and the longer I delay them, the bigger I'm making the monster, right? And as we know from all the fairy tales, usually the biggest dragons and the biggest monsters are guarding the biggest treasures and all those great fairy tales. So it's awesome, because I ask people, I say, look, just when you attend one of the workshops, just bring a conversation that you are struggling with or you can't have, and we won't talk theoretically. We'll apply it real life in the room, and it's lovely watching them. Like, they're so relieved. Oh wow, this does work. This is really cool. It's a lovely way to spend a day, because you think, wow, I've just helped 10 people have conversations they don't have, and I know their lives will be dramatically better. So it's a lovely way to hang out.
No, that's fantastic.
Because I didn't tell you my real secret, though. I've got a confession to make, Charmaine.
Oh, what's that?
My real secret is that I don't work for myself. I work for the universe.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Because what I find is that when I work for the universe works for me. And I feel as if people are looking for, I'm sure you've felt this too, like people are looking, they're hoping, they're praying, if you like, for something to change. And if you can be a small part of making that happen for them, you're working for the universe. And then in a bizarre sort of way, the universe works back for you, but from a different direction. It comes at you from a different space.
Yeah.
And what I mean, like if I help them, maybe my daughter will do well at school, or they'll come back in a different. I don't know.
No, I fully agree with that, because I've seen it manifested in my own life. And so, I'm a firm believer in that. I feel my personal belief is that the energy that you give off, so if you are fully committed, using your words, to positive energy release, right? So that can be in a lot of different forms. So, for you, your superpower is helping people with conversations that they're fearful of, and helping them to get that breakthrough. So that is your way of providing the positive energy to the universe. And in return, like you said, it manifests, however, in your life in a positive way. And for me, like, I'm a listener. Like, that is part of what I do. And I have found that by just listening, I have been able to help lots of people have their own breakthroughs, and as a result of that, a lot of positive things have occurred in my life. So I am definitely a believer in the universe, and how the energy that you put out into it is returned to you.
Absolutely. And it is interesting that curative power of listening, or the curative power of caring, because listening is, you could translate listening to caring, because if you're genuinely there for somebody and listening to them, there's a strong element of care in that. And I believe there's a curative aspect of care, that when someone feels cared for, it can be curative, like emotionally curative, even physically curative. I mean, I did some some work a few years ago. I was asked to work with some GPs, some doctors, on their influencing skills on their patients, right? And what they were finding was that there's a placebo effect, which arguably has somewhere between 40 and 70% of the impact of a medication or a treatment, is
Absolutely.
how much the patient believes it's going to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of that, what they were finding was a lot of that's based on the relationship between the patient and the medical professional. And I was asked to come and work with these specialists and these GPs to help them build a better relationship with their patients as a healthcare provider, so that they could elicit more placebo effect or more outcome. And a lot of it really boiled down to this. It boiled down to if the patient felt like the medical professional, doctor, specialist understood what they were saying, they regarded that interaction as being effective. So if I feel as if you're my medical professional, you're my doctor, I feel like you've got a unique understanding of my needs. That of itself, I feel better. I've got a better relationship with you, and what you recommend is likely to work better, or the placebo effect will be more strongly elicited. So even at like a biological level, this can work. It can be physically curative as well as emotionally curative. Like a lot of counseling is about just caring and listening and being there. And that caring and listening in a counseling setting is often curative, often by itself, no matter what particular method the counsellor is using. It works. So it's amazing the different levels that operates under. And one of the things I love about it is the more I dig into it, the deeper it gets, which I really love. People can say, how can you spend 20 years of your life studying conversations? That's easy. I'm only halfway. There's so much here. It's awesome. And it's also the relationship, right? Like if you think about the relationships that you have, the ones that you really love are the people you love talking to. And
Absolutely,
whether that's friends or a romantic relationship, and the ones when they're in trouble, it's like you can't talk to them, or the conversation sort of drops. It's interesting barometer you can look at and say, hey, I really love being with this person because I love talking to them. I had a great conversation this morning with a friend of mine I swim with. And he was telling me about this free diving course he just went on. And before the course, had to hold their breath, and he held his breath for 4.5 minutes. And he said, this is before that, because the dive took 3.5 minutes down and back up again. And he said he just felt completely transformed after he held his breath for 4.5 minutes. And he was telling me about this. I thought, wow, this is really cool. I love this guy. Marco's really cool. And I loved learning about that from him. And it sort of deepened our relationship again. Even though I really love the guy, but I thought, this is really cool. It's just conversation. It's just me asking questions and listening to what he's saying. Yeah. And now I'm sharing it with you and your listeners.
Yeah, that's fantastic. No, it's great. I'm envisioning Marco and holding his breath for 4.5 minutes. And then going for his dive and coming back up.
A free dive straight down. Because we both love the ocean, we're both swimmers, we both do scuba diving, and a lot of Australians, a lot of us love the ocean. We're on it in some way, and we're both similar in that respect. But I haven't done free diving. I've held my breath for 4.5 minutes, but I might give it a try.
Hey.
But you do it in a pool first, and then
Okay.
once you've done it in a pool. But he said it sort of just opened up a whole new. I don't know. He just felt like transformed. It's just a conversation.
I'm sure there's like there is a huge mental component to that, right? I mean, I don't know. I just remember, in like some lessons here, the coach will always say, hold your breath. But I mean, she doesn't say hold it for that long, obviously. But, still you're holding your breath. It sounds like he did this prior to actually going in, but, she would have us hold our breath underwater. And she'd just be like, okay, submerge, hold your breath, see how long you can do it for. And it's very mental. Like it is very like, okay, when does my body feel like it has to breathe? And then, you have to talk yourself out of it if you're going for a longer goal, right? So I could see how it can be very transformative. because it's a
Yeah.
huge like mind over matter type of thing, right? I mean, your body's telling you. It's kind of like if you do long distance running. I'm not a long distance runner, by the way, but I'm just saying, like, I could imagine for me, running 3 miles is like long distance, and it's challenging. And I know I have friends who do like, 50Ks or whatever, but I appreciate the mental work that is at play there, because your body is saying, at least my body is saying, right around a mile, my body is saying, it's time for you to stop. Let's stop this foolishness. But you have to tell your body to continue, because you know that you have the ability to do it. It's just that you do face a wall. Everybody's wall is different, but like it's a huge like mental stretch to go beyond your wall and bring out your best, right? Like to really push yourself. Yeah. So it's pretty incredible that he did that.
Yeah, but I'm interested too, just in language too. And I'm thinking, if I say to myself, that's my wall, that sounds like a big thing to get over. Like walls are big, they're meant to keep you in or keep you out. I think, well, I don't know where it is. I've got no idea. I don't know where my breathing wall is. I've got no idea how long I can hold my breath for. Absolutely no. I never tried it. So what Marco was suggesting, and he wants to do it again, he wants me to come with him on this pre-diving trip. He said, just be curious about where the limit is, because you don't know where it is. And obviously you're not doing it alone. You're doing it under guided instruction. There's medically supervised.
Disclaimer. I like
randomly holding your breath
disclaimer.
for 4.5 minutes. So, and I'd be curious about that, because I think a lot of physical records are broken by people who are curious about where the boundary is, and they don't say, this is my wall, I wonder if I can get over it. It's more like, I'm curious about how others can go and how I'm going to feel, and just experience that. And what I've found is, as I'm sure many of your listeners have found too, is that when you get curious about where the boundaries are usually further out than where you set them. Because when you get afraid, the stress response kicks in and you get pessimistic, and those boundaries come closer and closer and closer, and you take less risks and all those sorts of things. Whereas oftentimes being a little more optimistic and have a bit more faith in yourself, that potentially that boundary is further out. But let's be curious anyway. Let's just find out where it is. And that might be an interesting conversation to have with yourself. It certainly transformed him. Marco is so happy. He was just telling me this story. He was just bursting with joy, just remembering the experience. Because I just, so that's maybe my next trip, is to go with Marco to learn about breath holding in terms of fear. Because that's a primal fear, right? Not being able to breathe.
Yes, it is.
That gets to
Indeed.
That gets to the core.
That's why. Yeah, absolutely. Not as
and then,
fantastic.
I think that'd be, that's so. If you come down to Australia, you're not far away in Guam. You can drop down for a visit and go free diving with us and hold your breath for 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm down for that. Yeah, absolutely.
Apparently, the limit's 8. Are those one of the American magicians went for much, much longer. He went for like over an hour, didn't he? One of those.
Oh my gosh.
American was it David Blaine?
He is able to do some things physiologically to himself to slow down things. I don't know how he does it, but he's able to do that kind of thing. Maybe that's how come he's able to go longer. But 8 sounds like a long time. 8 minutes sounds like a long time.
I'd be happy with, because the free dive takes 2.5 minutes. I'd be happy with 3.5 if I get where Marco is. But who knows? Maybe I can go longer. Maybe not. Interesting journey to take.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
indeed.
Very curious.
And so you have to, like you've got me interested in that. Absolutely. And so, because people here, a lot of people do scuba dive. I haven't done it yet, even though I've been urged by all my nurses and everybody goes, they go to Palau and they go diving all the time. But, I've basically, just recently got over my own fear of snorkeling. I know it sounds weird, but I had a bad experience and a panic attack during our honeymoon when they were in snorkeling, and I had to like readjust myself. So I finally faced that fear the other day. and went snorkeling, and it was a great experience. They do a lot of free diving here, but they go like maybe like 50 feet down. They don't go that far down. And so like, but they do that just to kind of like see the coral, right? They just go down to like look at the fish and whatnot. And so that's probably my next attempt at things.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I highly recommend, if you can snorkel, you can scuba. If you can, and I understand fear of the water. I mean, a lot of people I know are afraid of water and diving, and I get that. But you'll find that if you can snorkel, you can dive, you can scuba, and if you get a well prepared program from someone like, say, Paddy Dive, they train you and teach you really well, and you go and guide a dive. You've always got a master there, and it's pretty safe most of the time. And there's some around where you're living. There's some beautiful reefs to explore. In Asia, there's awesome reefs to get. And then when you get more experience, you can start going wreck diving and diving into boats, and that's really cool. It's like a whole different world under there. It just feels transformative, because it does feel weird being under the water. It just feels different, and it's a whole new world. And it's a pain to get all the gear and the tanks and the rigs and get it all set up in the water. It's very complicated way of going for a dive. It's hugely beneficial. I love it. It's but there's also something about being in the ocean that's also just curative. It makes you feel better, different in some good way.
I do like swimming in the ocean. I like going down to the beach and swimming.
I recommend it.
Cool.
It's bizarre how I'll tell you one quick story about diving. Many years ago, I was in Fiji with my wife, and she snorkels, but she doesn't dive. And
we're twinning that way.
we went on this trip on this diving. She loves snorkeling. I love diving. We're on this trip, and they separated the boat into snorkelers and divers. And there was for the diving, there was only 4 people. There was 2 Japanese women who had just learnt to scuba. They'd just done their certificate, and an older guy from New Zealand, right? And they say, okay, you two are buddied up, you and the old guy, and me and the two women went together and had one dive master. The dive master spent most of his time with the 2 younger women that had only just learned to dive, and the older guy and me were basically left to ourselves. Anyway, we're getting ready, and I said to him, mate, so how long since you've had a dive? He said, 2 years ago. I said, that's a long time. He said, yeah. He said, I was in the New Zealand police force, and I was one of their divers there, and I left. I said, what happened? And he said, there was a Korean boat that came into the harbour in New Zealand, and a fight broke out between the captain and the chef about the food. A knife fight broke out, and one of them fell overboard, allegedly dead, like through the knife fight. This is in the harbour, right? Something, okay, fair enough. And he said we had to go down and see if we could find this person who was presumed dead in the harbour. I said, okay. He said, anyway, so after 3 days of diving, they found this guy in the bottom of the harbour. And he said, seeing this person at the bottom of the harbour, it freaked him out so much that he hadn't had a dive since. And this is the first dive he was having since then. I'm thinking,
no.
This is not I hope he's not listening. Maybe he is. He should say good day. Could we have a good time? Anyway, but I thought, no, I'll have a dive with him. He's obviously very experienced, police diver. He knows his stuff. So we had a dive, and we're diving along like this coral shelf, and there are all these crayfish inside the. We could see them, and he put his arm into one of the holes, pulled it out, and pushed it down the front of his vest, right? And the thing's alive. It's scratching. I'm thinking, this guy's nuts, right? This guy's crazy. I can see it scratching him. I got the pretty sharp claws on these things. He did it again. Another one down like this, stuck it down here. I'm thinking, this guy's. I think he's seen Korean people on the water, and he's going a bit nuts. But sure enough, we got to the surface. And I said, mate, what are you doing with those crayfish? And he said, that's breakfast. I'm going to go back to the boil them up and have them for breakfast. Thinking this is like you meet some really interesting people when you go diving. I tell you,
my goodness.
There's very few divers that you meet that are completely sane.
Okay.
but they're a little bit crazy in a nice way,
Yeah, totally.
in an interesting way. And
Yeah.
you meet lots of strangers, because you're normally diving with strangers. You go on these dive trips, and there's usually strangers with you, which is very cool. Another good way to overcome your fears, I guess, is go for a dive.
Yeah, there you go. I have to take baby steps though.
Baby steps. Yeah, take baby steps. But the course does that. I mean, it's over what, 3 or 4 weeks, and they gradually take you deeper and deeper and deeper. And yeah, they do it well. They do it well.
Yeah, there's a Patty here. I just haven't pulled the trigger.
Oh, they're probably the best. I mean, I don't know other dive skills, but I'm with Patty, and they're very, very good. I went for a refresher recently just to refresh my skills and get used to the new gear they've got, and it's they're very, very thorough, very good. They're a great program.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah,
that's good to know. Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, such a great conversation, Peter. So listen, you got to let the audience know how they can reach out to you if they want to hire you.
Hire me. Well, they can do two things. They can hire me, or they can have a look at my book, because I love conversations. I love the collaborative aspect of them, and I believe there's a magic in these collaborative conversations. I wrote a book called Collabradabra, which is the magic of collaborative conversations. It rhymes with abracadabra, hence magic, collabradabra, hence collaboration. So they can find Collabradabra on Amazon and have a look at that. You can download the first chapter for free, which is really cool. Second place is they can just check me out. My name is Peter Anthony. The website's Peter Anthony Consulting, and that's got all my work in there. They can check me out there, or if you Google me, you'll find me on YouTube as well. That's Peter Anthony or Peter Anthony Consulting, or Collabradabra, the book, and you can learn all about this approach that took me 20 years to develop, and it's written like a workshop. So you can buy the book and like run the workshop with your friends and learn how to have these conversations, the conversations that may be getting you in the way between you and something that you really deserve having.
Love it. That's great.
Yeah.
That is great. All right. No, that's fantastic. And then there is one more thing that we need to do, and that is the fill in the blanks. Are you ready, Peter?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yep.
All right, here we go. The first one is, if I am fearless, I will.
If I'm fearless, I will feel the fear and do it anyway, as Susan Jeffers would say.
Yes, I love her. Love that book. Awesome. All right. The next one is, to me, fearless freedom means.
Fearless freedom means I connect with people all around me all the time, and it's just about connecting. That's what fearless freedom means to me.
Yeah. Awesome. And then the last one is, my battle cry is.
This is my favorite. I'm free. I am free. And each word's really important. That's me. I am free. I'm free. I'm free. And I find when I feel like I'm free, I can go forth and connect and collaborate and have those conversations I know I need to have, and leave me and other people better off as a result, as my mum taught me and my Uncle Harry taught me all those years ago. Nice.
Uncle Harry. I like that guy. I don't even know him.
He's a character. He can tell a story, and he can tell the same story and make you laugh again and again and again, even when you know the punchlines. He's just that guy.
It's fantastic.
He's that guy.
That is super powerful for sure. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend with us here on
Absolute pleasure.
Freedom Podcast. We appreciate you.
Lovely to meet you, Charmaine. Bye, guys.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Again, I'm Dr. G. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe so that you can get notified of when the next episode is going to be. And also, I'll catch you next time. Have a great one. Be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.